So today we'll look at SPSS, introduction to SPSS, and at the end of this class, you should be able to describe SPSS and also highlight the main features of SPSS. You should be able to identify the component of SPSS interface. You should be able to describe SPSS data available view windows. You should be able to locate dictionary information in data view window. You should be able to highlight the component of variable view window. You should be able to create data in SPSS. You should be able to import data into SPSS. I should also be able to write SPSS syntax. Okay, and I should be able to perform basic analysis on SPSS. And finally, you should be able to describe SPSS output and reporting window. These, among others, are what we'll be discussing in today's section. However, in our second class, I have already given you the installation process or steps on how to get SPSS installed on your computer. For those of you who don't have the software on your system yet, please go and check our slide for our second week. All the steps to get it installed are stated on that particular file. If you have any issue during the installation, you can always get in touch with me. Okay, so to start with, now SPSS is not a new acronym in academics or even in research. And basically, SPSS stands for Statistical Package for Social Sciences. It was first launched in 1968, but later acquired by IBM in 2009. Since then, it is officially known as IBM SPSS Statistics. It is a software for editing and analyzing all sorts of data. This data may come from sources such as scientific research, a customer database, Google Analytics, or even the server log files of a website. Okay, SPSS can open all file formats that are commonly used for structured data. Sorry, some people are still joining. Yeah, SPSS can open all file formats that are commonly used for structured data, such as spreadsheets from Microsoft Excel or OpenOffice. Plain text, such as .txt files or .csv files. Relational SQL databases, as well as Stata and SAS, can also be opened in SPSS. So, irrespective of how you have collected your data, you can still find a way to get it uploaded or opened in SPSS in order for you to perform your analysis. Okay. Also, now, what are the main features of this particular software? SPSS is great for opening data files. So either in SPSS own file format or any other format. Whether you have your file in a database file, whether you have a data in a database file, or you have it in Excel, or you have it in .txt file, or you have it in SPSS file itself, you can always open such data in SPSS. Editing data such as computing sums and means over columns or row of data. SPSS has outstanding option for more complex operations as well. One of the great features of SPSS is that it makes analysis look extremely easy. Extremely easy. You don't have to worry yourself on how to get a particular analysis done. But the most difficult or challenging part is how to interpret the result of that analysis. As long as you have data, you can perform a lot of analysis on that particular data. As long as you have your data and you have entered or load or open your data on SPSS, you can always perform your analysis. It's just a matter of click, and you get your result done. But the major challenge here is, how do you now analyze? How do you interpret the results of your analysis? So although we'll be looking at this and how to write your report in APA style, of course, although it may be in the subsequent classes anyway. One of the features that come with SPSS is creating tables and charts. Creating tables and charts containing frequency counts or summary statistics over groups of or cases and variables. So you can use this software to also create some kind of table, create some kind of presentation in terms of charts, and all sorts of charts are available. You can use pie chart, bar chart, box charts, and the likes, including line charts. There are a lot of tools available on this particular software. Then running differential statistics such as ANOVA, regression, and factor analysis are just really, really simple, except that you don't have data. As long as you have data, you can run all sorts of analysis. Then saving data and output in a wide variety of file formats. So meaning that after you have run your application, after you have run your analysis, you may want to export the result of your analysis into your thesis. Probably you are writing your thesis, you're preparing your thesis using MS Word. So you can still, there's a way you can export your analysis table or graph or whatever into your file or your thesis. Or you can simply just click and select it and copy and paste to your thesis. It's as simple as that. So it allows all this form of flexibility. So basically, you can use the open data files, you can edit data, you can create tables and charts, you can run differential statistics, and you can save data and output. Okay, these are the basic features of SPSS. Now, when we look at SPSS, after you have done the installation correctly, you launch your SPSS. The very first thing you will be seeing, you should be concerned about is the data view and variable view, which is available at the bottom of your window. You're going to see these two buttons. One is data view, while the other one is variable view. This data view is where we inspect our actual data. Okay, the value you entered for a particular variable. You have variable name, you have variable age, you have variable country, you have a variable name called city. So you want to know, let's say for city, you want to input India or Malaysia or China into that variable. This is where you see it. Okay, or this is where you enter the value. Or let's say you get your input from maybe Excel file and you opened it. You loaded the value, the value into your SPSS. You want to see what your respondent have keyed in. This is where you see under this data view. So the columns here are the variable names, while the rows are the records. We're still going to see more about this in a short while. Now, the second button is variable view. This is where we see additional information about our data. This is where you know what type of data are you relating with, what type of data or what type of value will a particular variable take. Take, for example, if you create a variable called name, for example, and you want the name to take certain number of characters. Okay, you want the variable to take certain number of characters as the input, as the value. This is where you see the definition of that particular variable. Whether the variable, whether the measurements, whether the measure on that variable is the measurement scale on that variable is nominal, ordinal, or scale. This is where you see it. Then The place to enter variables. Of course, if you want to create a variable of your own, you want to create a new variable, this is also where you perform such operation. Then list of all variables. If you want to check, let's say you open your value, you input your variable from a particular sample file, maybe SPSS file, maybe Excel file, maybe any form of file. And you want to see how the variables available on that file. This is also where you can find such information. Then characteristics of all variables, such as the type the variable can take, the type of value the variable can take, whether the variable has decimal point or not. This is where you can see whether the variable will be taking some kind of, okay, take for example, let's say you have a variable name, a variable called gender, for example, and which has some kind of categorical values. This is also where you can see the value that has been declared. Okay. Then also probably you have a categorical variable for level of study, for example. So you want to know what type of level of study whoever that has prepared the list you are looking at have defined. Or probably you also want to define your own. Okay, this is also where you can do all sort of those things. We're going to see how these things can be done in a short while. Now, let's dive more. Let's go deeper on this issue of data view window. Now, SPSS display data in a spreadsheet-like fashion. Okay, just like our normal Microsoft Excel sheet. So here, if you look at this place, this is the button I just showed you now, the variable view as well as the data view. So for the data view, the data editor has, okay, the data editor has tabs for switching between data view and variable view rather. So then the columns, which you can see, we have last name column, gender column, date of birth column, education column, marriage, and the likes. Each of these are the variables. Okay, last name is a variable, gender is a variable, DOB is a variable, and educ is a variable, marriage is a variable. Okay, each variable has a unique name, meaning that no variable can be repeated. You cannot have a repeated variable name. It has to be unique. Okay, then which is shown in the column header. Okay, but of course, remember this is your data view window. Now, rows that you see here, all this row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 3, these are called cases. These are called cases. So cases are your respondents. If you have administered your questionnaire to a particular person, so whatever that person has entered or filled in your questionnaire will go to a particular row. Okay, so each row referred to as case. So that is why your respondents, you remember, you are dealing with sample, right? So each of them are your sample, right? So those samples are referred to as case. Okay, so each respondent in the study is represented as a single case. Then in SPSS, values refer to cell contents. So meaning that gas share, for example, Keta, for example, 1, 1, 0, 0, look at all these dates. All these are referred to as values. Okay, all these Mitchell, Kate, Taylor, 1, 0, 1, 0, all these are referred to as values. So the status that you have somewhere here, the status bar may give this information on the data, for example, whether a weight, filter, split file, or Unicode code is in effect. But again, this one just ignore. By default, it just display like that. But again, we'll be doing more work here. Okay, we'll be doing more work on the rows and the column, and of course, the analysis tab. Okay, so this is how the SPSS data view window looks like, and these are the components you can find on your SPSS data view window. Now, how do we now read the data view window? Okay. Cases represent independent observations, experimental units or subjects. That's what I just mentioned in the previous slide now. This case 1 is from a particular respondent. Case 2 is another part of your sample. Case 3 and so on. Okay, for example, if the data are based on a survey of college students, then each row in the data will represent a specific college student who participated in the study. Okay, so this is a student, this is a student, this is a student, this is a student, and so on. So variables are attributes, characteristics, or measurements that describe cases. So these are variables. We have IDs, day, that is by day. We have gender, age, athletes, height, weight, and so many, and so on. So, for example, your data might include information such as each college student's date of birth, gender, or class rank. All these are referred to as variables. Okay, each of these pieces of information is a variable that describes each case. Okay, so for example, we say ID. This particular ID is for this particular student. This particular gender, which is 0, is for a particular gender, represent a particular gender that has taken or that has participated in this study. That's why you have 0. And of course, probably 0 probably while you're creating your sample, you may use 0 to represent female or use 0 to represent male, either way. Okay, and of course, the value you're saying here, which is 20, is the value for age of this particular participants. Okay. Now, dictionary information in data view. Again, you don't have to, let's say you loaded or you open certain file in your SPSS. And of course, you want to see basic highlight of how that particular variable was defined or has been defined. So all you have to do, you can just hover your mouse on the name of the variable. When you hover your mouse on the name of that is, you put your mouse on it. I don't have to click anything. Just hover your mouse on the variable name. You're going to see some information will pop up. That information is referred to as dictionary. So this dictionary will have the name of the variable, the label of the variable, the type of the variable, the type of data or the type of value that that variable can take, okay, and the measure of that particular variable. So in this case, for example, if you look at this one, you hover your mouse and you see education type, that's the name of the variable. And it has a label called primary type of education followed by respondent. And then the type is numeric, meaning that only numeric value can be entered, only digit can be entered into this particular variable. Then the measure scale is nominal, meaning is a nominal data. Okay, so now you will see this icon here. This icon shows you what each of these value represents. If you choose one, while defining your variable, you must have used 1 to represent some. Just like when you are dealing with gender, you can use 0 to represent male, 1 to represent female. So if you really want to see what is 1 representing in a particular data, then you can click on this icon. And this will reveal what this is showing. So in this case, if you click on this icon, this is what you get. So to tell you that educational type, which is 1 is law, 4 is medical, 5 is other, 3 is social sciences, of course 5 is other, then 4 is medical. So depending on your use case, depending on your requirements, or how you have defined your variable, then whatever value you have associated with that particular figure will also be displayed. Okay, so you can see some additional information in data view. So this allows you to look up what your data mean without having to switch between data view and variable view. Okay, Then now let's look at the variable view. That's that on data view. Now for the variable view, this shows information about the data. Okay, how the variable was defined, what kind of data can be input into that particular variable name. This is sometimes called metadata or the code book. Okay, in SPSS, it is called the dictionary. This is where you define your dictionary. Okay, in the left bottom corner, which is this place, we find two tabs again, which are data view and variable view. This is for switching between variable view as well as data view. So here in the variable view, in the variable view, you have name, you have type, you have a few other things here as well. We have label, you have values and the likes. So this is where you define this name. Refer to all the variables you want to create or you want to use in your research. This is where you enter your variable names. Okay. Now here, while creating your variable names, you must ensure that you don't include blank spaces. Variable name cannot start with a digit. Okay. So if you want to join two words together to form a variable name, you need to use underscore or just you can capitalize each word, okay? But definitely don't include space. Special characters such as percentage, dollar sign are not allowed in the variable name, okay? So make sure that you follow the syntax correctly. Also, in variable view, variables are shown as rows of cells. So you have this variable here. So this variable, all the associated features or properties, which is what you are saying here. So for this particular variable, which is respondent ID, we have the type to be numeric, meaning that this particular variable can only take digits. Okay, you cannot input string or text into this particular variable name. Same goes to gender. Gender will only take digits. Okay, of course, you have to define your you have to define the value of those digits under the value tab here. So then label just gives some kind of information about, describe your variable. Okay, it doesn't really have anything to do with your analysis. Now, the first column shows variable name, which you have here for each variable. Then also the fifth column may or may not contain a variable name. This describes the exact meaning of each variable. So whether you put or you don't put, it doesn't affect your analysis. But it's always good to put so that next time, whenever you are visiting your file, you will actually understand what a particular variable name does. Okay, the sixth column, which is the value, descriptions of the meaning of one, many, or all value that a variable may contain. So for example, here, for gender, we have 0 for female. You can also have 1 for male and the likes. Okay, if this happens to be level of education, you can have 0 to represent maybe primary, 1 to represent secondary, 2 to represent, tertiary and the likes. So depending on how you want to structure your category, how you want to structure your variable, but this is where you define all those categorical variables. Okay, so this had a basic. Of course, this is how it looks. These are the complete features that can be set for each variable. We have name, we have type, we have width, we have decimals, we have label, we have values, we have missing, we have columns, we have align, we have measure, we have row. Okay, now for the name, again, this is the name that you input. That's the name of a variable. The type specified the kind of value that a particular variable will take. While the width, this width is what you use to set the value that, what is string? Yeah, that's a string String is a text. Okay, string is a text, alphabetical letter. Let's say you want to give a name of something. So string is what you're going to use. It's either you use text, string, or text, but in SPSS, they use string. And of course, we have numeric for number, string for text, and date. If you know that a particular variable will take date of an event when something is called, then use data type. Then, and so many. I'm going to show you how the data types that are available in here soon. So then the width shows the width, the side, the width at the length of each character. How you want to, the number of the character that you want. If you take, for example, for gender now, you want, or for first name, you want it to be, you want to restrict it to like 25 characters or 30 characters, then this is where you can set that. Although this doesn't have anything to do with your research and with your analysis anyway, but again, if you want to set, you can set. If you don't want, you can leave it blank. Then decimal, in case you want to make sure that a particular value have decimal places such as height, weight, and the likes. So here you can set to 2 decimal places or 3 decimal places or even no decimal places. For example, for gender, which will be numeric, which is 0 and 1, you don't have any form of decimal point there. So in this case, your decimal will be 0. Okay. Then label, like I said earlier, it only describe the variable. Okay, so whether you put or you don't put, it has nothing to do with the result of your analysis. But it is always advisable for you to put a label so that it will give it, because it will tell you what a particular variable is doing. Okay, then values. In case you have a categorical variable whereby you have to define certain level, then this is where you do that. Now, missing. Sometimes when you administer your questionnaire to your respondents, some of them will decide not to fill some parts. So when they don't fill those parts, how do you want to handle them? Okay, so this is where you define how you want to handle those kind of values. Although by default, I think if it's numerical, the SPSS will take it as a point. It just replaces with a point. But you may actually decide on what you want to do if there's a missing value. Okay, but in any case, if there's a missing value, you will see it in your analysis. Okay, so it's always good to look at your data very well before you start your analysis, because this can affect your analysis results. Then columns, the value you put in here will determine how you want to spread out the size of the column name, the variable name. So if you, for example, this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. So if you go ahead and put 6 here inside this column, then definitely it will stricken the width of this variable. So probably this will go to second line. Okay, so by default, this value will come. You don't have to worry about it. But again, if you need to expand or extend, you can just put your column, you can put your cursor somewhere here, just like Excel, click and hold and extend it. Once you extend it, this value will adjust itself. And of course, align. Align, if you want your value inside your variable to align left, right, or center justify. So you can set that one from here. Then here, measure. Here you have whether you can decide whether you define whether your variable is nominal or ordinal or scale. Okay, this is where you choose what you want. And of course, the role, this role also have few value. Okay, we have target and we have few other options there, which I will be showing you in the next slide. But in any case, these are all the label. These are all the properties that are associated to a particular variable in SPSS. You can set any of this in order to create your variable. So, and again, I'm not saying that you must set all. Okay, you only do this to set the one that goes in line with what you want, especially the name and the type These are quite essential. Some of them will come by default. If they are okay, you change, you leave them. But if they are not, you can change them to suit your need. Now, variable view at a glance again. Like I said, I've just explained all this again, but the only part I will just look into now is the role. So the role that a variable will play in your analysis, such as independent variable, dependent variable, or both dependent and independent. Okay, so inside this role, you have input, target, both, none, partition, and split. So by default, you may see input. So the variable will be used as a predictor, that is as an independent variable. This is the default assignment for variables. But if you know that it is not an independent variable that you can change to target. So when you use target, know that you are taking that variable as outcome variable or dependent variable. Okay, then we also have both. The variable will be used as both a predictor or an outcome variables. So in this case, you are using it as independent and dependent variable. None, the variable has no role assignment. Partition, the variable will partition the data into separate samples. And lastly, split, used with IBM SPSS modeler, not IBM SPSS statistics. So these are the options you have under row. For measure, we have nominal, ordinal, or scale. Okay, so these are the options you have on the row that you have to know. Choose the one that goes in line with your, but by default, this is what you'll be seeing. So later you just have to click in order to choose the one that, if you want to change any of them based on your requirements. Now, how do we now create data in SPSS? To create a new blank sheet in SPSS file, click File, which is file you see here. The first thing is actually to launch the SPSS application. After you have launched the SPSS application, then you can straight away go to File, New. You're going to see New. Then you're going to see New option. Then you're going to see Data. Okay. So you notice that each of the columns is labeled VAR. You can see VAR because it's a blank sheet. Okay. The column names will represent the variable that you entered in your data set. That is when you create your variable. So you will also notice that each rows is labeled with a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Okay, these are just your cases. So the row will represent cases that will be a part of your data set. When you enter value for your data in the spreadsheet cell, each value will correspond to a specific variable, okay, and a specific case, which is row. So take, for example, if you enter something into this cell, whatever you entered here will correspond to this row as well as to this variable, which is this heading of this column, okay? Now, how do we now do this? This is what we want to create. We want to create a variable name called school name, and it will take a numerical value. Okay, then we set the width to 8. We set this to non-decimal places, and of course we have nothing. We have label, but we did not put anything as label. The value we didn't put anything. Okay, so to do this, click the first step to create a variable is to click the variable view, which you have in here. Then type in the name of your first variable under the name column. Like I told you, you cannot use a blank space. Okay, you want to have school class. Normally, when you're typing school class, you type school, then you put space, you enter space bar, then you put your class. But in SPSS, you cannot do that because it is a variable name. So in that case, if you want to separate, either you leave it together or you separate using underscore. So you can also enter other information about the variable, such as the default is numeric. By default, this is what we see. This is what you get. Once you enter this, all these ones will come by default. Of course, the decimal will also come as 2. Okay. So type the name of each variable that you plan to include in your data set. Can go to the next line and type the name you want. Then also, but in this example, we'll type school class. Then since I plan to include a variable for the class level of each student, that is 1 for first year, 2 for second year, 3 for third year, and 4 for fourth year. So to do this, I just go to my values and I define this accordingly. So once you're done with that, then I will also specify 0 decimal, which is displayed. Initially, it was 2. Okay, so I make it 0 since my variable value will only include a whole number. Okay, the default is 2 decimals. How this is done, I'm going to show you also very soon. That's the first.
Baba? Nana, Baba?
So that is the first. That is the first step. Okay. The second step is that you have created your variable. So next thing is to enter some data into it. So, but for you to enter data into that particular variable, you need to switch to your data view. So to do that, you click on data view tab. Okay. Any variable names that you entered in variable view will now be included in columns. What's this? If you have any question, just raise your hand, okay? You don't have to distract us. So now, you see, this is the variable name that we just created just now in the previous step. We have school class. If we had created more than one variable, we're going to see other variables next to this particular column. Okay, so you can see that we have this appear at the first column in this example. So the next thing now is to enter the value we want into this particular variable. Remember, 1 for first year, second, 2, 3, 4, and next. So to do that, we can straight away, you can enter values for each case. So in this case, I enter 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 4, 1, 3. Get? So in this example, cases represent students. For each student, enter a value for their class level in the cell that corresponds to the appropriate row and column. For example, the first person information should appear in the first row under the variable column school class. In this example, the first person class level is 2. Okay, the second person is 1. The third person is also 1. The fourth person is 3, and so on. Okay, so in this case, we have successfully performed data creation in SPSS in 3 simple steps. It is as simple as that. Of course, although we are using just only one variable, you may have multiple variables. So repeat these steps for each variable that you wish to include in your data set. But while doing this, make sure that you are saving your work. Okay, while entering those variables, make sure that you are saving your work. Okay, so that is how this is done. Now, also, you can import data into your SPSS. Okay, you can import data into your SPSS. The first one we'll be looking at is assuming that you have SPSS, you have your data in an SPSS file, which is .sav. Okay, if you already have data that's in an SPSS file format, so you can simply open that file to begin working with your data in SPSS. So to do this, all you have to do is to click on File, open Data, then navigate to the directory where your .sav file is located. Then select your file and click Open. That will open your data inside your SPSS environment. Also, if you have data stored in other types of files, such as Excel spreadsheet or a text file, you will need to instruct SPSS how to read the file and then save it in the SPSS file format. Okay, it is as simple as that. So let's quickly look at how this can be done. Okay. Now, I've already shown you how to do your installation for now. So I'm just going to launch my SPSS application. So now when you launch your SPSS software, this is what you see. So how you have to do is to close this prompt. You can close from here or you close from here, either from the top or from the beneath somewhere here. So you click on the close button, then you're going to see your SPSS interface. So now here I can create a variable like I told you just now. We have a variable name called school class. So I can straight away, if I want to do that, I can click on variable view. Then when I click on variable view, this is what I get. Then I can straight away click here and type school underscore class. I press enter. Once I press enter, all these values will come up. Okay, so then you can now set up whatever you want. As for the values, remember I told you somewhere here that yeah, 1 for first year, 2 for second year, 3 for third year, and so on. So if I want to inculcate this into this particular data, all I need to do is to go to the values here. You can see there's some ellipse, which is this 3 dots. So just click on this 3 dots and this will open. So 1, I use 1 to represent first year. So I will enter 1 into the space value, into this value space. Then what is the label of that 1? The label of that 1 is first year. Okay, then I click add. Then for second year, I will say 2, and I will say second year. So I click add. Then for the third, 3, and I will say third year. Okay, and so on. So I just click OK. So when I click OK, this is there. But one thing you notice here is that this figure is in 2 decimal places. I don't want this. Okay, so all I have to do is to come to this place and change this one to 0. Okay, once I do that, if you check your values again, you will see that I've corrected itself. Who is this people now? Leo Xiaoling. Why drawing on my screen? Okay, so as I was saying, that is how to create the value. So if you want to enter values into this particular variable, just go to data view, and you can see now, if you look at this place, you see that the width is a bit shrinking. So if I like, I can go back to this place, then I can increase the size of this column, or I can just go back to this place and just put on my cursor here and expand. Okay, extend, click and drag. Okay, then when I click and drag, you go back to your variable, you see that the value has increased. Okay, to the correct value. So now I can enter my values here. Say 1, enter 2, enter 3, enter 1, enter 1, enter 1, enter 1, enter 2, enter 2, enter 2. Okay, so assuming that these are the values are entered for this particular variable. Of course, if I want this to be at the center, I can come here and click on this align and make this center. Then when I go back to this place, it's now at the center. So if I want to see what the dictionary of this particular variable, I just put my cursor here. You can see the name is school class. It can only take numeric value. And of course, the measure is unknown because I did not choose any. So now, and if I want to see what these values represent, I just click on this icon, this button. When I click on that, you can see the values they represent can easily be seen. Okay, and if I want to take it back to where it was, I click on this one back. Okay, so that is how to create a variable in SPSS. Now we are looking at how can we input. Let's assume that we have a variable. We have SPSS file somewhere. I have few SPSS files here as an example. So let's say an SPSS file will look like this. We have sleep.8FAV. So we have survey underscore to underscore SPSS.SAV. Whatever SAV files you see here are all SPSS files. Okay, so I want to open some of these on my SPSS. So all I have to do, let's say I want to open this one, for example. Okay, so all I need to do is that I can go to File, click on Open, then click on Data. Then here, this will navigate to, of course, because I've already navigated to that directory, the directory is showing. But if you have not navigated, you have to navigate to that particular directory before you have access to that to all this file you have, to all your SPSS file. So I navigated to that particular directory, then I was able to see all my files. Then here, we have all sorts of files that can be uploaded or opened on SPSS, depending on your requirement. Okay, but for now, all I'm interested in is still SPSS. So I don't have to worry myself. Just click outside. Then I look for the file I want to click on. So I want this one. I want to open this file from SPSS. So I select this file and I click on Open. Then you see my data has been loaded into my SPSS. Okay, this is data view. So if I want to see the variable view of this particular file, I just click on variable view. So you can see these are all the variables that are available for this particular file. We have ID, gender, birthday, source from 2010, 2011, up to 2014. Up to 2014, the income from 2010 up to 2014, the sector from 2010 up to 2014. Then, of course, some are numeric, some are dates, some are numeric, some are dollars, some are. Now, I said I'm going to show you other types that you can choose here. So if I look at this place, let me use this, let me use the other one. So now if you look at this place, we have a type. If you click on this button, you see these are the types that can be chosen. They can be selected, whether comma, dot, scientific notation, date, dollar, and custom currency, string. Like I told you, string is what we use for text. Let's say for name, city, country, and the likes. So depending on what you want, but by default, numeric is what you will be getting. Okay, so this is what you chose. If I want to change this one to anything, now this way I change. Okay, then I click OK. So now back to the file. So here you can see some scale has already been chosen. For the first two variables, we have nominal. The third one is a scale variable. Then next is nominal. Then we have scale, we have nominal. Then all of them are kind of independent variables as their input. So now this is how. Then of course we look at the values. Some of the values has been defined, like gender. Now, if you check this place, they use the author of this particular data set use 0 to represent male and 1 to represent female. Okay, and for source in here, they use 0 to represent contract work and 1 to represent freelance work. Okay, and for sector 20, for sector variable, we have what they use 1 to represent industry, 2 to represent finance, 3 to represent healthcare, 4 for IT, and 5 for others. Okay, so this is how the structure of a variable view looks, and you can have any number of variables depending on your requirements. Okay, but this is how you can load a file that is already in SPSS format. Okay, this is how you can open such file in your SPSS program or application. So that is that on so now so now assuming that you want to input from Excel sheets a file that is not SPSS. Okay, let's say you want to input your data from an MS Excel sheet. It's also very simple, but here you have to consider certain conditions. Okay, you have to make sure that your Excel sheet conform with this condition before you upload or before you open such file in SPSS. Now, before you start to import data from an Excel sheet into SPSS, first make sure your Excel spreadsheet is formatted according to the following criteria. The spreadsheet should have a single row of variable names across the top of the spreadsheet in the first row. So meaning that here, sometimes there's a way you can divide this cell into two, whereby you can split, let me use that word, you can split a particular cell into two. So make sure that your first row have single cells. Such doesn't happen, meaning that each of the cells of the first row are not splitted. That's the first condition that you must fulfill. Secondly, variable names should include ordinary letters, numbers, and underscores. Okay, variable names, which are the headings, should include letters, numbers, and underscores. You cannot include special characters. Okay, meaning that you cannot have birthday, like a B-day hash, or B-day $, or B-day percentage. All those are referred to as special characters. You cannot use them in your variable names. So for example, you can have something like this: gender, grad, that's graduation date, or test _1. Okay? Or if you don't want to put underscore, it's also cool. You can put them together, test 1, test 2, test 3. It's also fine. As long as spaces are not included, special characters such as percentage are not added, then you're good to go. Okay? And not include special characters such as graduation. I can see this one now. There's a space. You don't put something like this in a variable name. All this will not be a valid variable name because it contains space. Now, the data should begin in the first column. The data should begin in the first column. First column cannot be empty. This is another thing you have to, this is another condition that you must make sure that you comply with. So data should begin in the first column, second row beneath the variable names of the spreadsheet, which is over here. Okay, anything that is not part of the data itself, such as extra text, label, graph, pivot, should be removed. So missing value for string or numeric variable have blank empty cell, such as this place. These are missing value. These two example of a missing value. Okay. An appropriate predetermined value code, such as this. So whenever you don't have anything like this, will be treated as a missing value. Okay. So whenever the analysis is run, it's going to tell you that there's a particular missing value somewhere. Okay, so it's better you check all this and probably you replace them with a dummy character, or you just know how to, so that when the result comes out, you will not be surprised. Okay. Now, once the data in your Excel file is formatted properly, it can be imported into SPSS by following the steps in the next slide. So once you conform with all these conditions, then you are good to go. So what the next thing to do is that you go to your SPSS, okay? You click on File, you click on Open, then you choose Data, just like the way we did for the previous file. But here, something needed to be done. And what is that thing? You need to come here and select your file type. Okay, you need to select your file type. We have different file types here. We have SPSS like PC Plus, we have Portable, we have Excel, we have CSV, we have text, we have SAS, we have Starter, we have DBase. So depending on the type of files you're trying to open will determine what you're going to choose. But in my case, I want to open an Excel file. So I just choose Excel. Okay, so I choose Excel. So if you do not specify the type of file that you wish to open, your file will not appear in this place. Okay, it will not appear on the list available. So locate and click on your file. The file will appear in this place in the file name. Okay, so then once it's appeared, the next thing to do is just to click open. Okay, so once you click open, then you're going to come to this place. If you are using SPSS version 25 and above, the read Excel file window will appear, which is this place, this particular form. In the worksheet drop-down menu, which is this one, select the sheet from your Excel workbook that contains your data. This is in case your Excel file have more than one sheet. Okay, if your Excel file has more than one sheet, this place you can select the particular sheet you want to load you want to load your data from. But if your Excel sheet if your Excel file only have just only one sheet, then it's okay. Okay, you don't have to worry about this. But if it has multiple sheets, then you have to select the sheet that you want from this place. Okay. Then, if your variable names are in the first row of data, select the read variable name from first row of data. Okay. Then that's you just have to check this box. Although by default, these first two boxes will be checked for you, because remember the requirement, the criteria, right? You must have fulfilled this before you even get to this stage. Now, the option remove leading spaces, okay, from string value and remove trailing spaces from string values only affect variables that are imported as strings. So sometimes if you import your value and probably while entering the value, you mistakenly enter some blank spaces. So in that case, you may use these options to trim out those blank spaces. Okay, that's the function of this, just to format and to ensure that no hidden character is added to your data. You may also specify the range of rows and columns to import if you wish. Okay, which is somewhere here. I'll put that one here. Then it is suggested to keep the default value unless you have a reason for altering it. So click OK. Once this is done, the next thing you do is just to click OK. Okay, and your value will be loaded inside your SPSS data editor. Okay, so now the data will appear here. Here is an example of how sample data appear. Especially once the data has been imported correctly. Where you are seeing this dot, these are referred to as missing value. Okay, if the value is numeric, SPSS will replace it with dot. But if the value is not numeric, let's say the value is string, you're going to see empty space like this. So you have to define what you want, how you want SPSS to handle this kind of situation. And of course, you have to define inside your missing value column while defining your variable. Okay, so this is when you import, this is how to import data from Excel sheet. Okay, so let's quickly look at how this is done. Now I have my Excel, I have my SPSS. So I just click on File, I click on Open, and I click on Data. Okay, so now I want to open my Excel sheet. Now I can't find any Excel sheet here because the file type I've chosen is SPSS. So only SPSS files are displaying. So if I need Excel sheet, I just come here, click this, then all my Excel sheet will be displayed. So I can use any of this. In my case, I want to use this one, for example. So I click, after I've selected this, then the name automatically displayed here, and I just click open. So here, you can see I have only one sheet there, so I don't have to worry about this. So by default, I have this. I just leave them the way they are because my maybe before then I should quickly show you how the sample file looks. So for you to know that it fulfills, yeah, this is the sample file. Yeah, so this is the sample file. This is my first row with all my variable names, and of course my data are also here. Okay, I don't have any missing value, so everything seems to be okay. So now, if I want to now, but one thing is, if you look at this place, these are the data inside the Excel sheet. But if you look at this place, if you look at line 7, okay, if you look at row 7, please have some kind of blank spaces here. This may have effects on my analysis because this shows me that there's some characters here. Okay, so I don't want this to happen. So what do? I just click on this. And you can see it will trim out those kind of spaces. So maybe by mistake, the rest of the values also have some blank spaces in front of them. I can also trim it out by this. Okay, so that will ensure that the only value I can see here is what is imported and what is used for my analysis. Okay, so all I need next is to just click on OK. When I click on OK, this is what I get. Okay, so this is the variable view. And of course, if I want to go to my data view, I come here and I see all my data. Okay, so this is how to import data from your Excel sheet. Okay. Now, there's something called SPSS syntax, which I know majority of scholars don't like working with because it's all about coding. But one of the beauty about this is that if you know how to do this, you have some kind of administrator's privilege to to modify your program, to modify your command and do it anyhow you want it, instead of click. So it is actually faster. Okay, so SPSS syntax is a programming language that is unique to SPSS. It allows you to write commands that run SPSS procedures rather than using the graphical user interface. But don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you cannot. I'm not saying that you must use SPSS syntax. Okay, but if you want to use it, will give you a greater advantage. But if you don't want, you can still use your graphical user interface. So there's nothing to worry about. So statement in SPSS syntax end with a period. SPSS syntax is not case sensitive, meaning that whether you write it in uppercase or mid-case or lowercase, it doesn't matter. As long as you type the correct name, it will work. So you can use all lowercase, all uppercase, or a mix of both when writing your syntax. So you can add comments to your code to make them readable. Comments are not read by the computer as a command. So placing an asterisk or a / followed by an asterisk at the start of a line will turn all text on that line into a comment. Okay, so these are just basic programmings. So now, how to work with SPSS syntax? Suppose we would like to gain some insight on the percentage of male and female respondents of the data shown in the previous slide. Okay, we could first navigate to analyze, descriptive statistics, then we choose frequency. Okay, so when we do that, we have the data in here. We can click analyze, select descriptive statistics, and we choose frequency. So when you click on frequency, you're going to see this window. You're going to see this window, frequency window, that will list all the variables on that particular file. Okay, so here we just want to get insight about percentages of male and female, which is basically the gender. So what we need to do is just to move the gender variable into this variable box. And how do you do that? You can either click, drag, click, hold, and drag to this place. Or you can double click on the variable, which will appear here. Or you can just click one time and click on this button, then to also move it here. Okay. This button is pointed to this box because this particular variable is currently being selected. Okay. But ordinarily, if you have selected a variable here, this button will be pointing to this arrow will be pointing to this place. Okay. So those are the 3 ways by which you can move your variables to this particular box. Now, after that is done, we choose chart. So once you click on this chart, we have this option, chart type. You can either select none, you can select bar chart, you can select pie chart, you can select histogram. And under chart values, you can select frequency or percentages. Remember, we want to gain some insight into the percentages of male and female respondents. So, but by default, we're having frequency now. It's fine. So we can straight away just select percentages here, but we don't want to do that. So what we did was click on continue. So after you have clicked on continue, the next thing is, instead of clicking OK, don't click OK, you just click paste. Okay, once you click paste, this syntax editor will open for you, which is the code to generate your result. Okay, so all you have to do, you can just remove this frequency for frequency, remove it, and you type in %. So once you enter %, then you just click on this button run, or you see something like this here, this play icon button. So you just click on that. Once you click on that, then your output will be generated. Then you can see your tab, of course, you're going to see a particular table that gives a summary of your variable. Then beneath that, you're going to see your bar charts. Okay, so that is how to use SPSS, how to work with SPSS. Of course, you can change any of these, or you can change any of this code depending on what you want. Okay, so let's quickly let's have a look at this. I think I'm going to use the current value, I'm going to use this. Okay, so and to do that, I just go to analyze, I go to descriptive, and I select frequencies. So here, sorry, I'm supposed to select descriptive, then descriptive. Okay, so now I'm going to use units. Okay, so now this is what I'm saying. If you have selected this, the arrow will be pointing to this variable. So I can straight away click on this place. So now this variable is selected, and that's why the arrow is pointing here. If I select any other one here now, the arrow will be pointing to the right. So if I like, let's say I want to add this unit cost, I can just double click on it, then it will appear here. Let's say I want to add this total, I can click and drag and place it here. Okay, so if I don't want any of this again, if I don't want the total again, I can just drag and bring it back to this place. So let's say I keep this true. Okay, so I can click on option, then I can choose what I want. I think I'm doing the want to see frequency. Okay, no, let's see. Sorry, let me use a different example. On this frequencies. Let me choose region. This, then I click on chart. I want bar chart, then I have this. That was the next example I'm supposed to give you. So I click on OK. Then instead of clicking OK, I can straight away click paste. So when I click paste, then I have this. Okay, so now I have the syntax error. So if I like, I can straight away go like this. If I go like this, I can just click on this place. You can see this is my table, the summary of the variable that I chose, which is region, and the region comprises of central, east, west. Okay, and this is the total case, and this is the percent, the value percent, community percent, whatever. And of course, this is the statistics. It's telling you that the value entry here is 43. And if you check, you see that you should have 43 for the region. You should have 43 values. Okay, which is correct. So then, okay, so the missing value, there's no missing value. If there's any missing value, this is where you're going to see that. Then, of course, if you come down, this is where I have my bar chart, which is frequency. Okay, so I want to see the percentage, not frequency. Okay, so to do that, instead of me to go back and choose to select my variable and the likes, I can straight away just come to this place, and here I put my cursor here. Then I can delete this, and I can say, you can see and check for frequency, maximum, minimum, as well as percent. So I just select percent. Then if you like, you can select this. I like this, then click OK. Then when you scroll down, this will give you the percentage of each region. Okay, so this you were able to do with the help of the syntax. And of course, for the frequency is here, for the percentage is here. Okay, so depending on what you actually want. So this is how to work with well, this can be simple one. I'm using a very simple one, okay? So this can be simple, it can be even more complex, depending on your requirements. Okay, so this is how to work with syntax editor. Basically, work with coding. So depending on what you want. But of course, what you did here can also be done using click. Okay, but if you do this, it's easier for you to correct what you want to make is correction or adjustment than to go back and choose your options again. Okay, what I'm saying is that okay, let me close this. No, I close this. I don't need this. Okay, I believe you were around when I have this, right? So what I'm trying to do is I want to show you how you can use SPSS syntax, which is basically program. Okay, so here I want to check the percentage of this variable region. Okay, so to do that, you click on Analyze, you click on Descriptive Statistics, and you select Frequencies. So when you select frequency, by default, this is what you get. Okay. But in my own case, I want to have some insight about this region. So, like I said earlier, you can either click and drag to this place, or you can select here and click on this button. Okay, or you can double click. Okay, so the choice is yours, whichever one that is easier for you. But in this particular example, I am more interested about the region, so I will return this one back to the initial position of box. So this is the region that I want. The region that I want. So I can just click on chart. So for chart, I can select pie chart if I want. I can select histogram if I want. But for now, I just skip it with bar chart. Remember, I want to see the percentage of this region. So I can straight away just select percentages here. Okay, the choice is yours. But sometimes you may choose frequency and probably change your mind. I want to use percentages. Okay, so that's the advantage that this syntax comes with. So I leave it as frequency, even though I actually want to look at the percentages. So I leave it as frequencies and I click continue. So instead of me to click OK, ordinarily I'm supposed to click OK, right? So, but I'm not clicking OK, so I'm going to click paste. Because if you click OK, this will give you the output straight away. Okay, but as such, you will not have access to the code. But if you click paste, you will have access to the code. Okay, so you can straight away run this program, which will give you this. But this bar chart is still on frequency. I want for percentage. Let's say for some reasons, I want some percentage. Of course, you have your regional statistics. Okay, this is the frequency, this is the percentage, valid percent, this is cumulative percent of this particular variable. And of course, the statistics for the variable region, valid values is 43, missing value is 0 because there's no missing value in this particular variable. So now I want to change this from frequency. I want to check the percentage of the central, east, as well as west. So instead of using this frequency, then instead of me to go back and choose all those values, I can straight away go to this place. Okay, so instead of using this frequency, I can remove this. Okay, then I click add P. Then you can see I have the 4 values. Assuming I want to see the maximum, I can just click on it and execute. I'm going to get the maximum value. If I want the minimum, I click on the minimum, I get the minimum value. But in this case, I want the percentage. So I just click on percent and I select percent and I press enter. Then I have this percent. So if, like I told you earlier, this is just a very simple code. Sometimes you can have more complex codes. So in the situation like that, let's say you want to execute a particular section of that code, you have to select like this, then click on this green right pointing arrow. But if in this case now we have just this is the only code we have, okay, you can just straight away click on this because it's going to execute all the codes you have on this particular script. Okay, so I just click on this one and I'm going to have my results. Okay, yeah. So I have my results, which is for percentage. So here you see the same thing. You have statistics, but of course, it's not that it's going to override the previous one. The previous one is sit here. If you need it, if you want to refer back to it, it's okay. But the new one is here. So we have frequencies, statistics, just like the earlier one, region, same thing. The region is also the same, but of course, this time around it's not percentage. Okay, so this is how to use excuse me. This is how to use syntax, SPSS syntax. Okay, so the choices Yes, but one of the advantages of this is that you can easily correct or check something very quickly. Let's say I want to change the minimum, for example, the minimum or the maximum value, for example. Okay, I can straight away click on this and execute. So here there's a missing parameter there. I think I chose the wrong syntax. Hold on. Okay, so execute this. So it's missing parentheses of frequency command. So I think I'm violating some of the syntax. So anyway, if you mix any of those syntax, that's this one of the difficulties here. Anyway, if you mix any of this, if you violate any of the syntax, then you'll be having this kind of issues. But in any case, you can check for percentage and frequencies, and everything will work fine the way you want it. So that is how this works. Now we move to the data analysis itself. So SPSS can open a source of data and display them and their metadata in its data editor window. So how to analyze this data in SPSS? For instance, if our data contain a variable or responding income over 2010, we can compute the average income by navigating to descriptive statistics. Now here, like I said earlier, it is very easy to perform analysis in SPSS as long as you have data. The most difficult part is how to interpret that particular result, analysis result. So for example, you have this data. We're going to be using the freelancer data. So in here, you go to analyze descriptive statistics, then you click on descriptive. Don't forget what we want to do. We want to check the average income, okay, of incomes in 2010 rather. So doing so you open this, then this page will open. So you can select the variable, which is income for the year 2020. Okay, then you can click on options. So for the options, you can select the mean, select the standard deviation, select the minimum, select the maximum, select the variance, and the likes. Okay, remember we are more interested about the mean, which is the average. Then once that is done, you can click on continue. And once you click on continue, you click OK. Okay, so once you click OK, you're going to have your descriptive statistics for that particular variable. Okay, also SPSS output window, which we have here. So SPSS output viewer window holds a nice table with all statistics on all the chosen variables. So it has a different layout and structure than the data editor window. Creating output in SPSS does not change our data in any way. Okay, so it only performs some certain computation and is showing you the result. So this is what you get on your output window, and this is where you get the result of your analysis. So if there will be an interpretation, this is where you get those kind of things. Okay? So now, reporting. SPSS output item, typically tables and charts, are easily copy and pasted into other programs. So like I said earlier at the beginning of the class, if you have something like this, you can straight away copy it and paste it in your thesis wherever you want to have it. And I think I've shown you how you can insert table caption, right? So you can add a caption to that table, and you can actually reference that table inside your text that is doing some kind of in-text citation for that particular table, so that whenever your reader or your reviewer or your examiner is reading through your thesis, once they click on that table, take them straight to where the table is located. So for instance, many SPSS users use a word processor such as MS Word, OpenOffice, or Google Docs for reporting. So tables are usually copied in rich text format, which means they will retain their styling, such as fonts as well as borders. Okay, so now let's quickly look at this. I think I have. Okay, let me use so this, I just close this. So I close this as well. And then to save. If you want to save, you can save in your own case. And if you want this particular data, I can actually share with you. So if you want to practice, if you need, just let me know. I can share a copy of it with you. So I want to open my first data that I use. So I use this freelance. Then I click open. Then I have here. So I can straight away go to analyze, go to description, go to descriptive. And now I want to check for 2010 income. Let me see. Oh, it's total income. So I can, this one is this. Yeah, this is 2010. So here I can choose options. Just the average is what I want. So this is the average, can be selected. If I like, I can include the variance as well if I want. Whichever one you want, you can just click. It's as simple as that. You can imagine if you had to calculate this one manually, how long it's going to take you. With the help of SPSS, you can just select whichever option that you want. Then click continue. Then once that is done, just click OK. Then you have this. Okay, so this is how it works. Now, here, let's quickly look at this. This descriptive analysis, this is descriptive statistics for this particular variable. The variable name is gross total income over 2010. Okay, the total number of entries or values in here is 40. Okay, valid N list-wise is also 40, meaning that there's no missing value. Okay, meaning that there's no missing value. The minimum value here is 6,072.40, while the maximum value is 80,311.71. Then the mean is this, and the standard deviation is this, and the variance is this. So depending on what you need, you can straight away compute your descriptive statistics like that. So assuming that there's a missing value, this is what you'll be getting. Let's assume there's a missing value for, okay. Okay, so if you could share the file you use for the, yeah, I can do that. Let me just give you now, before I go, I use freelance. I can share the freelance with you. The freelance and the sample is what I use. So I'm going to, I hope you can just download from this place. Let me just computer, then desktop, then I have desktop backups. Okay, then I have local. Okay, then I can have cost allocation. 2022 PDF files. Then okay, here. So I'm going to share sample with you. Freelance source. Okay. So I've sent that one in the chat, so you can still just click on it and download it. Then I'm going to share this one with you as well, which is the sample I used earlier. Sample. Okay, this is the Excel sheet. So I can pass it on as well. Oh, this error sample cannot be sent because it is currently in use. Okay, so I'm going to resend that one in a short while. Let me just finish this. Okay, so now I close this for now. Now I want to have a missing value. Okay, I I want to have a missing value. Let's say I go to case 10. Okay, so this is 1. So I just come here, I delete what I have in there. Okay, because I deleted this now, you can see it has turned to minus. I mean, it has turned to dots, meaning that there's this particular value is missing. So you have to check through very well that, okay, all these values, and you can see there's another missing value somewhere here in 2012, although we're not using that variable, that we would have seen it. So, but this particular one we're using, we have just inserted a missing value in it. So let's rerun the analysis and let's see whether it's actually working or not. So it's still the same thing. I don't have to do anything. So it's still the same. Click OK, click OK. Now, so I hope I use the same one. I don't think I use the same. I'm sorry, I think I use the wrong. So, oh, sorry, I'm using source. It should be income. Income, it should be this variable. So this one, I turn it back to 1. I'm looking at income variable, right? So let's say this one, I just put 0 or nothing. I deleted the value. Okay, so I go back to my analysis, descriptive. Okay, then I click OK. Now you see the n is now 39. Okay, the n is now 39. So instead of 40, so meaning that there's a missing value somewhere there. Of course, later we're going to see how this can function. But again, it's easier to detect if you have more than 2 variables, more than 1 variable. Okay, assuming that you have 2 variables like this, let's say as you chose this 2010, you also choose another one, okay, which is for 2013. Okay, and you do the same thing for the 2 and you click OK. So now you can see it's easier for you to detect that one particular one has a missing value than the other. Okay, so now for the gross total income over 2010, you have the total value to be 39, while the gross total income over 2013 is 40. So like valid hen list-wise, you have 39. So in this case, you're having one missing value. Okay, so you have to track all this missing value, otherwise it may actually affect your results, your output. Okay, so probably you take them out or use something to use a dummy value to replace them. Okay, but in any case, this is how to perform a simple descriptive statistics in SPSS. Okay, so we're going to see, we'll be doing more advanced analysis in our subsequent classes. Today, just to expose you to what SPSS is and how to perform, how to create data, how to upload data, and how to perform some simple basic analysis in SPSS. Okay, and yes, so no. So on that note, we have come to the end of this section. I'm going to paste I've pasted the attendance sheet on the group chat. Please click on it and fill it up. So if you have any questions, please let me have them. Let me see if this will go now. No, it's still not going. Okay, let's resend. Let's go. I can't send the Excel sheet, it's having some errors. So if you have any question, please let's have them.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so in the absence of none, thank you. Stay safe and see you again next week. Bye.
We have 43 today.
I have shared the attendance link.
Yeah,
Please.
we saw. We already filled that.
All right. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you, sir. See you next week. Inshallah.
Bye.